Distinguished guests, dear friends, I am honored to release the report on effective and equitable educational recovery, which was developed jointly by the OECD and Education International. Today's release comes at a critical time. The COVID-19 crisis has had unprecedented effects on our economies and societies. It has also changed education. We have experienced a school year like no other. Students, teachers, and parents alike had to adapt to new ways of teaching, of learning, and of dividing responsibilities between home, school, and work. Well, let me put this into perspective. Last year, 1.5 billion with a B, 1.5 billion students in 188 countries were locked out of their schools. Some of them were able to benefit from alternative learning opportunities with the support of their parents or their teachers. But not everyone was privileged enough to stay connected to education during the crisis, and certainly not throughout the whole of the crisis. Well, think about the students from disadvantaged groups. They did not have access to digital learning resources. They also lacked the support or the motivation or the tools to learn on their own. In our member countries, between 10 and 20% of students lost contact with their teachers or their schools during the shutdown. And these numbers rise when looking at the global picture, where 1/3 of students could not access remote learning at all. Today, half of the world's student population is still affected by full or partial school closures, which is casting long shadows over future generations. The crisis has exposed the many inadequacies and the many inequities of our school systems. These range from the computers and broadband connections, which are needed for online learning, to our failures to enable local initiatives and align resources with the needs. Since the onset of the pandemic, the OECD has been working with more than 50 countries to ensure that learning continued when schools were disrupted. Now, we have learned important lessons on the best practice of teachers, of school leaders, of local administrators, and entire school systems in responding to the crisis. Many of these are reflected on the OECD's COVID-19 Digital Hub. And earlier this month, we published our latest report on the state of education 1 year into the pandemic. So I invite you to take a look in the OECD's Coronavirus Hub. Now, today, with the release of this report on effective and equitable educational recovery, we are taking this work a step forward. We're drawing lessons from the crisis and developing principles on how governments and the teaching profession can work together towards an effective and equitable educational recovery. Crucially, these principles show us a path towards a more effective and inclusive future for education. Now, what future? What is that future about? An education where knowledge, skills, and attitudes are all valued. An education that focuses on tackling inequity. An education that empowers teachers to exercise professionalism. An education that continues to build on international exchanges. And an education that champions the culture of innovation unleashed during the pandemic. This is the essence of the 10 principles for effective and equitable education recovery. Now, dear friends, our schools today will be our economy and our society in the future. Together, we can pave the way for a resilient and inclusive recovery from COVID-19 that works for students, that works for teachers, and that works for parents. Thank you.